All right, if everyone wants to take their seats, we'll let you know that the afternoon session is being recorded, so that way if anyone who wasn't able to attend today, they can at least tune in to this portion.
He died in the accident. The kid was injured.
All right, are we missing any commission members, any staff at this point that we need to bring in here? All right, we'll go ahead and get started. And just for the purpose of, this being a recording and sharing with the community, we are going to give another recap of what we heard this morning and some of the key themes. And then we'll get into our afternoon activity, which is going to be a little bit more informal conversation. And we'll get into various discussion items there. So Madison, if you want to give us our recap, we'll take it away.
And thanks for everybody returning after lunch. We didn't lose too many of you, so thanks for sticking around. So just to kind of recap what all was discussed this morning, I know we covered a lot of information, and you've all done a really good job of taking that and digesting it and asking very thoughtful questions, and I hope that we are giving you the response that you need. And just to reiterate, this is a process. It's fluid. Things change. Things are changing in real time. We covered a series of parameters or guiding pillars, as it was, that have already changed since this morning's discussion. So thank you for that thoughtful conversation and feedback. And we are taking that to heart, and it's being incorporated as we move through the rest of this process. So just a quick recap of what the strategic plan is, why we're doing it. The strategic plan is going to help Madera Beach as a whole move forward, and previously identified projects, whether it be from infrastructure needs, compliance needs, or just nice to have community needs. We're going to help move you through this process to figure out what comes first, what comes next in a 1 year, a 5 year, and a 10-year time frame. So looking at the immediate needs, those interim kind of medium time frame needs, and something a little bit longer term. We also want to make sure that this process is not just a one-time occurrence. We want to make sure that you guys are prepared to repeat this process year after year, commission after commission. It's very important that this be a repeatable process, that you have the tools at hand when you need them to actually ask those hard questions, like, is this the type of project that we need now? Is this something we could use a year or two from now? So again, coming up with the process, coming up with the framework to help you move through this year after year. Because this is a strategic plan, don't anchor on the word strategy. It is a strategy, but don't anchor on that. What I want you to focus on is the hierarchy of how we move through each of these projects. Going back to our guiding pillars, does this project align with something that is important to good stewardship of Madera Beach? Does it align with the community needs? Does it align with good customer service? We want to make sure that while it is a prioritization, it is done in the correct order of operations. And one other thing I wanted to highlight was we had really talked about making sure that everybody's voices are heard. And so because of that discussion that we had this morning, if there is a need to have more community engagement, please let us know. We're open to it. This is a collaborative process. We've met with staff. We're meeting with the public and commission as it were now, and we can keep this dialogue open. This is fluid. This is a plan for you all. Did I miss anything? No? Yeah. All right. So kind of the next steps for this afternoon session, we covered everything that we discussed this morning. We're actually going to go through a little bit of a group exercise here. We're going to do another kind of scenario. We had Andrew from finance walk us through a potential budget scenario. So we're going to do something that's more along those lines as well. So we're going to work through a group scenario together, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna see how we all feel, how we all work through this problem as a group.
need a microphone. You all hear me? Chat box.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to Stephen, and
Thank you very
please,
much.
this
Can
is
you hear me?
collaborative. Everybody's involved. Raise
Yeah.
your hand, shout out loud, and we're going to get into it.
And maybe even before we do that, and I hope am I allowed at the big kids table? I thought I might just come so I could make better eye contact with you all. I think this afternoon, we really just wanted to have some more candid conversation, learn a little bit more. Obviously, we had to stay pretty high altitude during our morning session, 30,000 feet. You know, you all want to get down to the block level, I'm sure. Part of our responsibility is ensuring that we don't inadvertently bring good ideas from elsewhere and them not be representative of Madeira Beach. And so I'm really sensitive to that. We want to be good stewards of the time and resources you've offered us to partner with you on this. And to that end, we continue to kind of probe and investigate so that when we move forward through some of the more technical steps, we're much closer to the mark. I will tell you, we won't be perfect. We're going to bring you draft materials. It's not going to be, you're not going to look at it and say, oh, love it, let's endorse that. I've never seen that happen anywhere, so I'm not going to pretend that we're that good. I can stand here with humility and say it requires the partnership of us asking thoughtful questions and us doing a little bit of back and forth. To that end, I kind of wanted to pick up where we left off this morning, but we never got to, which is I want to better understand how you're currently making decisions. And, you know, without getting too in-depth about it, but I'm just kind of curious. And the reason I'm asking is not to grade it. I want to know if there's things that you're doing today that you really like, that you want to carry forward into the future. I also don't mind hearing that if there are things that we've done in the past or don't have presently that we don't want to carry into the future, like an externality, what those are so that we can be cognizant of that as we move forward and try to memorialize a few things. I alluded to something earlier in the morning session that, you know, whenever you do a plan, there's a shiny object in it someplace. And I think for you all, it's probably, what's that priority list look like? And we're holding it at bay from you right now because we need to gather information before we generate that draft. But I think in order for us to maybe better understand how to get to that, I want to know how you're doing things. But equally important, if you tell me and affirm that the plan also needs to include some things that offer the opportunity for more informed decision-making incrementally down the road, or consistency or transparency, whatever it is that you deem to be most important. I want to be sure that we do that. I think the scope that Mike and the team have allowed us to assemble offers us a space within this plan process, not just to do a prioritization of things that need to get accomplished, but also procedurally maybe to memorialize some things that are helpful tools to you. I said a lot of words there and I apologize for that, but I think what I'm trying to get to literally is maybe just some observations about how you're currently operating, and let me know like what feels good, what might be places with which you'd like to see some changes. Pretty big open-ended question.
I don't like to start. I don't want to lead the conversation. I'd much prefer if you all did.
well, I mean, I think, let me have.
Oh,
that.
yes.
Keep it on record. Well, in terms of, I'm not going to say this, but I am 3 months on the commission. So, I mean, I've dragged that on long and people have given me a hard time. But a lot of the stuff that I enjoy about what I am now involved with is the people I'm working with, the relationships that we have up while we're up, representing the committee, the people as a committee. And the information that we're getting from the staff is very good. And so I think that information coming from the staff gives me a level of confidence that it's been checked out. So I don't have to try to wonder whether things are going well. I mean, you know, so for me, the people underneath or giving us the information that we're requesting is excellent. And the people that are giving us the information to the heads of all the departments are very, very good at what they do. They're knowledgeable, and they've been in the city quite a while, so they are very knowledgeable about things. And then Mike, a new city manager, I mean, he and I came in together. And so I've got a lot in common with him, and he's taken the ball and running with it, and he's doing a great job. So everything that's presented to me as a commissioner from the staff and everything seems to gel very well. And, I mean, I was in the planning committee before, so I knew some of the city functions and that, and knew a lot of the go-arounds, but coming into the commission is a different beast. And so now I'm more responsible for a lot of these things, and I ask questions. Sometimes I get told to be quiet about things, but but I ask. I mean, and I ask because I'm not knowledgeable. But then what we found out from what I have from the city manager, learning, what is going to be talked about. And the communication seems to be very, very good. So decision-making, as far as I'm concerned, the decision-making that I'm having to do is not very difficult. My only concern is moving forward and keeping all of that in place and doing as well, which I don't think that's going to be a problem. So, I mean, I'm just happy with it.
No cons? Nothing bad?
No, not really. I mean, okay, here, David.
David will fix that.
No, I'm just.
I'm still too new to know the bad things.
My turn. No, that's all right. And Chuck stole one of mine. I feel like we have pretty good communication between staff, employees, managers, slightly less residents, which I'd like to see improved, slightly less business owners, but we're working on it. We now have a good communication between the board and the Johns Pass Village Merchants Association. So communication, I think, is pretty good right now. I've been in the city for 30 years. I've lived here for 30 years, and it's a really great, I feel like we're very productive. Now, when it comes to things that I wish were better, I go back to what I said about communication. I wish we had better communication with our residents, and I think that's happening as we hire our communications director. I think that's going to fix a great deal of those problems. And we're working on our relationship between the board, the city, and our developers. So I'm going to say something that's a pro, and it's also a con, or a thing that we need improvement. To maintain the balance between development and quality of life of our residents. That's something we're starting to do better, but I think that's something we need to continue to do better. So and then in regards to the next thing, I hope this doesn't, I know this is going to get too far down into an operational detail, but I would love, but maybe this can go on a part of our pillars or our mission, our goal. We have good enforcement for crime. We have good enforcement for major issues. What we lack is that non-emergency ordinance violation monitoring and enforcement. So I don't know, I know that's very operational, but if there's a category that could fall into, I would love to see us work towards filling that gap between when residents report something or when there's an actual crime, and in between, so that we're getting those important ordinance violations, which aren't really criminal, or they're not urgent, they're not emergency, but still violate our ordinances.
Oh, thanks. I've been a commissioner here in Madeira Beach since, well, 3 years now. I've lived in my district since 2005. So I've watched our community and our residents, come together. And I enjoy the dialogue that I have with the citizens of Madeira Beach and the citizens that live in my district. I believe we are all approachable commissioners, and the mayor, she does a great job with the conversations with the mayor, and that's a really wonderful a time for the residents to get together, and I appreciate your due diligence in that aspect. Also, I think we have a great staff that works great together, and we communicate great together. There's not, one of the things that sets our commission apart too is that we don't have any kind of partisan dialogue. We do not have any kind of partisan prioritization type, It's not the community that wraps around me. It's what we as a commission can do for the community, and that's part of leadership. I'm looking forward to the projects at hand and how we can streamline those so we could go really efficient into what we're doing. I look forward to more of the meetings also. And I believe this afternoon we'll have a nice turnout. Hopefully, because had a lot of wings left over, I think. But definitely, also I wanted to say that, doing what's right for the community, and let's get on top of the 555 at 666, and what we're also doing here in-house. And we have a great team, and I'm sure we're going to get it accomplished. So, thank you.
Let's pass that.
So I would say that I've lived in Madeira Beach for 11 years, and I'm Florida born and raised, so I don't know how to be anything other than a Floridian. Over the years that I have been paying attention to Madeira, and I've been in Pinellas County for over 23 years, and I've paid attention to this little community the entire time I've been here, that I've seen a lot of dysfunction in our city, a lot of dysfunction in the commission, a lot of dysfunction from the city management office to the community to just so much. And I think that we are so fortunate currently that we have a commission that really gets along. And we've had that for quite some time, but we have a commission that gets along, that is respectful even when we disagree. We can vote I could vote yes, and David could vote no, and Chuck could vote yes, and Eddie could vote no, and we still are able to have a respectful dialogue and exchange our ideas and our thoughts of why we feel the way we do about whatever it is that we're voting on. Currently, we do have a new city manager. I think he's been here for just over a month. And it was a long process to find and hire someone that we all felt was a perfect fit for this community. And the commission came together in a 5-0 vote to vote for Mike to come and be our city manager. He brings a fresh perspective and a different view of how to do things that I think is very in line with staff and the city and what the community wants. And if I surmised it, I would say our community just wants transparency. And we've all worked really hard to have that and continue to work for that. So to me, in our decision-making, transparency is the number one most important thing. We've gone to a lot of effort to try to get community input on what we're doing within the community, not just the 555 property, but the events that we hold. And as we go through today's session this afternoon, the 555 property is top of everyone's mind, but I'd like to remind all of us that there's a lot more going on in this city than just that piece of property. We have John's Pass, that is a park that we own. We have many other parks throughout the city. We're talking about parking garages, whether we need one at the north end or the south end, in addition to whatever the new property would need. We're talking about the beautification, playgrounds, the young families that are coming in and what we can do for them and to attract people to want to come and live in our city. I've said before that Madeira Beach is 2 miles long and a mile wide. We have less than 4,000 residents. We get anywhere between 3 and 4 million people a year in this city. So when we make our plans and we make our decisions, although our residents are our number one priority, we also have to be thinking about those almost 4 million people who are going to come here and spend their money and use our resources to keep our taxes for our residents low and be able to help fund and pay for all of the beautiful things that we want to have in our city.
I can honestly say there aren't many places I'd go where there is such unanimity. You guys are at a unique moment in time. I hope there's an appreciation for that, and appreciate your hospitality again. I'm gonna ask a couple questions about what I heard, if that's okay. I'm kind of curious to know a bit more about, I heard the word streamline, like wish we were able to streamline some things, whether that's decision-making or maybe that was about just advancing projects. Can somebody clarify, like, what might that mean?
I was talking about when it mentioned the word streamline,
Yeah.
the current projects that we have and what we're facing
Yeah.
in the future, near future.
Yeah, y'all agree that like finding ways to expedite things is a good step in the right direction?
The wheels of government turn very slow.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm kind of curious if we were to turn around, we're not doing this, but if we were to turn around and ask staff what they think that they are getting in the way of clear direction from you all, do you feel like your direction is explicitly clear?
I want to be sure this is heard. Yes. Hello. So my view on that would be that, and we've talked about this on the dais, that over the years, and it's why we're here today, it's one of the biggest reasons why we're here today from my view. Staff has over the years been given direction to go out and do things by the commission. They go out and they do it, it comes back, and then it just fizzles and goes away. There are so many half-started projects in this city that staff has expended their time and their energy and the taxpayer money, and then it would come back to the commission and it wouldn't move forward. Or somebody on the commission would change and they wouldn't want that. So I view that as, in the past, possibly, decisions have been made from the dais that didn't really take into account what the community wanted. And so those things fizzled away, or there really wasn't a true support from the commission. Maybe one person pushed it forward. And I believe that we have pushed forward initiatives and things that we want staff to do that's based on the whole and not just one single person sitting on the dais. And that those decisions have been made based off of the communication that we've received from the community. So to me, for us to better support staff, we need to be more present in our decision making and make sure that when we tell them what we want, we're very specific in what we want and not leaving it for them to try to decide, well, what did they mean when they said that? And that has been a problem for years. And I think us making the commitment to be supportive of staff and be clear in our directives will benefit not only the staff, but the community as a whole.
Yeah. That's an interesting scenario, and it's not unusual. I don't know if this thing's on or whether it's even necessary, but.
Yes, because if it's.
Is it on? There we go. It's one thing, right, to take advantage of having great staff, but when there is a direction offered and then we don't follow through, it's not just the time expended on that, it's the opportunity lost, right? Because your staff, just like your dollars, are a finite resource. And so that's time that's then taken away from their daily activities that they hold responsibilities for and then ultimately are evaluated against. And so I've been on that side of the table and know what that feels like. It's, you want to do more, but there's a reality that there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many of you. So they're seeking clarity as well, not because they want their job to be easier, but they want to get as much done, be a productive contributor to the community. So that's an interesting point. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
Hey, catch.
I just, I've always felt we have a great, as I mentioned, we have good communication between elected officials and staff. I would just like to say I encourage staff to ask for clarification if there's some question or some needed for anything that came from the dais that they're not clear on. I think this board is willing to answer your questions.
That's great. Just to chase that one last, put some finality to it. I mean, are there some strategies that you think might help avoid those circumstances in the future? It's great that you're working well together today. There might be something in the future, though, that is less certain, and just kind of curious if there's anything that comes to mind or whether you'd like to hear some strategies, not right now, but in the middle of, like, if we were to document some strategies for you as just procedural things, would those be welcome in the strategic plan, or would you rather just maybe talk about those offline as a group?
I mean, since you specifically ask, I feel like for maybe some of the larger conversations, there would be the opportunity to, we have our pre-BOC meetings, but then a post-agenda action item meetings, I think would be helpful. Not necessarily all the time, but sometimes when we're dealing with more complex, nuanced feedback from the BOC, I think scheduling those or, at least putting those in our vocabulary to have would be nice.
There was something else that was mentioned that caught my attention, is that it seems, generally speaking, you want more input, more participation from the community, and that's both aspirational and important, right? Because you're here to represent them. I'm kind of curious if maybe each of you could share a little bit about what are you doing as a part of your individual efforts that's working well for you to establish those lines of communication. And I'm wondering, like, where is the gap? Is the gap in getting interest so that you feel more confident in making decisions, or is the gap ensuring that the community understands why a decision was made, or is it both?
Well, this is one of the things that I decided to get into politics, was the mayor's conversations with the mayors. That turnout is so phenomenal. And it's just like, I don't know what the difference is. And maybe it's just that the people feel that it's more loose. And thank you, Megan, for coming all the time and taking her notes, and then she brings the notes back to us in a whole. And so it's something that she started that's working, and I think the show up for the meetings is a little bit better. I mean, but I don't know. It's just, it's the elusive butterfly. Where is it? I mean, sometimes we'll have good turnouts, and I think kind of sometimes when we have those kind of turnouts, we try to make it earlier in the meetings so that it can be discussed, and if they want to leave, then they can leave. So it seems as if the commission tries to cater to the people as much as we can, but yet you can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so we've asked this time and time again. And before I was on the commission here, I was 4 years on the planning committee. And same thing. I mean, just like we'd occasionally have 1 or 2 people that would show. And the planning committee was kind of stuff that was pre-commission. It's stuff that was going on that was in the city, and it's things that the commission, it goes before them, before it comes to us. So people have had opportunities to come to various different meetings, but I mean, but I have no idea. And so, like, maybe if you can do the magic wand to find out or figure out how we can get more public participation. It's something we struggle with, and I don't want to say struggle with, we just have to deal with it. But it would be nice to have more community input.
Okay, so just personally, as a commissioner, when I first came into office 4 years ago, I started creating an email distribution list. And it was just a neighborhood distribution list, and it's made up of people who requested to be on the list. I didn't put automatically email addresses. People had to come to me and say, I'd like to be on the list. So right now it's about 100 people. and I promised them I wouldn't bombard their mailbox. And I put forth things that I really want their input on. Sometimes I'll create a forms survey, part of our Microsoft Suite, the forms, so you can do a simple survey. And other times I will do my best to explain something that's complicated that I think they need to understand. And I get input. I get feedback from them. And I think they like it, because it's kind of passive for them. They can get the information. If they have a question, they know they can call me. And they sometimes do email me. And that's, even though that is successful, sometimes when I'm walking my dogs and somebody will stop me and I find out that they don't know what's going on, but I always explain it as much as I can. Then I invite them to be on the distribution list. So that's something that's working. Would I like to see more communication? Absolutely, because there's a lot of misinformation that I know is going around.
Well, also, I'm following right along with the mayor and the other commissioners here, and then communications and transparency is basically what our commission board really strives for. Getting back to the word stewardship and what that word means as far as how what's right for the community and what the community thinks and the residents, being approachable, passing out your business cards and going out and shaking hands, and Commissioner Tagliarini also, I know about his email list, and I think that is such a great idea, and Megan is always there, and Claire is always there if the commissioners or mayor need anything. But what I'm getting at also is a community experience and what we have to offer. But right now, we have an open door policy. When I'm at home, everyone knows they can call me. And Marcy even, she said, Eddie, you have a great voice for the people, because one of my jobs basically is to listen and listen to what the residents say. And then if I don't know the answer, I know exactly who I can go to get the answer. So it's, it's very simple, a very nice process. So, and I think we all have that same idea. So that's about it.
Commissioner Dillon's point, it's conversations with the mayor is just that. It's a conversation between city officials and the residents. Board meetings are not. You get an opportunity either before the meeting starts, if it's not on the agenda, to bring something up, or if it is on the agenda, to speak your mind before any discussion starts. And as you know, if you're going to have a conversation, what you say, I may have something to say about that, and back and forth. You can't have that, or you don't have that, in a BOC meeting or workshop. That's why the conversations are so well attended.
So when I became mayor, I wanted to do conversations with the mayor because the community, the number one thing that you hear or heard was that the community felt like they weren't heard. They felt like they would come to a board meeting, Board of Commissioners meeting, and they could get up and speak, but nothing ever happened. So the conversations with the mayor came out of that, came out of creating an environment where people would come. They're not on camera, they're not being recorded. It's very casual. We hold it every month at a different location within the city. It's never at City Hall. By design. And it does a couple of things. It allows a open dialogue with the residents, as well as brings residents into businesses within the city that they might not have been to. We rotate it through breakfast, lunch, and happy hour to try to at least give you the opportunity, dependent on your schedule. It's never on the weekend because people's weekends are busy. And so, but that's how that started. And to what Commissioner McGeehan said, I think that my number one job is to listen. And I think that's the number one job of all of us as commissioners, is to listen. So when someone comes to you, sometimes they can often be frustrated and the conversation can start out a little tense. But if you listen instead of talking and try to give explanations, my experience has been that by the end of the conversation, the tenseness is gone because they just wanted to be heard. And I don't often have an answer. I can ask or tell them that I can look into something or point them in the right direction, but most people want to be heard. And that's our job, and it's important to remember that. One of the other things that we've done since I've been on the commission is if you come to a commission meeting, we have open comment at the beginning of the meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, we discuss that. So you cannot get into a dialogue with public comment because that is not the intent. The intent of public comment is for the public to give a comment and then go sit down. However, if you don't address whatever that comment was before the meeting is over, then it's going to be lost. So at the end of the meeting, we discuss whatever that comment was and determine whether or not there's staff that can answer, if it was a question or an inquiry into whatever we're doing, or we decide whether to place that on an agenda and workshop it. And I really love that we do that because I think it is just another opportunity for the citizens to be reminded. Citizens, business owners, visitors, anyone can come and make a public comment, but it allows them to know that they are heard, and it moves it to the next step, whether it's answering it or moving it forward. I find that we do get some pretty good attendance to workshops because they're more interactive than the commission meeting. The commission meeting is difficult to get people to come. People typically come to a commission meeting if there's something on the agenda that specifically affects them. For anyone that's watching this today, we do have several residents who will come to meetings for no other reason than to just sit in the audience and listen. They don't get up and speak. They just come and they're paying attention. I love it when they come because they're engaged, and those residents I know go back home and talk about what they've heard firsthand to their community that they live in, which is great. I could also say that maybe people don't come because they're happy with our performance and they just don't think they need to come criticize us. And the other thing would be, two more things I would say, is that we still have a lot of displaced homeowners. So when you think about someone coming to the meeting, they're not even living in the city right now. They're still trying to rebuild or decide if they're going to rebuild, or they just don't know what they're going to do. So to think that they're going to show up for a commission meeting on a Wednesday night when they're living in St. Pete or Dunedin or Safety Harbor or wherever I think is part of why they don't come. And I think I'm hopeful that in the hiring of the communications manager, that is going to make us better communicators to the community. We had a resident here today who said she just found out about this meeting. And I know this meeting was posted on our website. It was on social media. So, this person that we're bringing on is going to help us identify better ways. And if you have those suggestions today, that would also be equally wonderful. But better ways to communicate to the community. How do you get the word out and make it so that people know what's coming up and what we're doing to get that community engagement?
I appreciate all that input. It's fascinating. I'm a little bit of a public policy wonk, and so you read studies about why people don't participate, and I lead a lot of public engagement around the country, and it's interesting to hear about places where there's such a civic mindedness and high levels of participation, but there's also often places where there's a lot of controversy, a lot of divisiveness, and you don't have that here in large part. And then there's other places where they can't get anyone to show up, and so they're left wondering. And there was a mayor I won't mention where I was listening to him and having some conversations with him about this, and he made an analogy. He was a very wise man, and was just sharing. It's like, this is a little bit like volunteering to be the coach of the Little League baseball team. All the parents want their kids to enjoy the benefit of participating in the league and having the opportunity to play and learn from that experience. But there's only one person that volunteers to coach, and it's a big responsibility. It's in conflict with a lot of people's schedules. And yet there's a thankfulness to that. And so there's a willingness for people to pay the participation fee so that someone else can help create this environment with which we derive value. And maybe he was just a baseball fan, I don't know, but it resonated with me, and there's some truth to that. There's often some confusion too about a commission or a council's role. When you rely exclusively on who shows up to the meeting to provide you information, it feels a little bit more like you're the judicial branch and you're judge rather than the legislative branch. And so I challenge you to think a little bit about that. It's not supposed to be you must be present to win, right? I would guess that if you were able to survey every single citizen about a given matter, they would have an opinion. Whether or not they choose to come to a meeting to express that opinion is probably a diverse set of responses why they might choose not to. Trust is probably among them. There's a lot of public opinion surveys out there about participation rates and why. Most people want to trust local government. They say that I voted once so that I didn't have to think about some of the other things I want to trust, and I will vote differently if I don't see the outcomes that I was hoping or expecting. And that is their proxy. So sometimes you don't need coaching from me. You guys are all seasoned veterans, but a reminder that effectively you are the government is sometimes the most profound thing we can be recalling when making decisions. I want to transition a little bit. You guys were so kind to each other a moment ago. I'm still wondering, because I'm a little bit of a policy nerd, I did chase that charter. I read the 2 pages. It was less than informative. And again, for someone who likes to read those things, I'm going to keep that and put it in my folder of other charters. And it doesn't matter, right? It's there. It was there to serve as your origin story. But what is it that you use what is the process for making decisions? How do you collaborate? Like, what are the questions that matter? Is there some kind of uniform set of things with which you use as a backdrop to determine whether or not you're going to lend your support on a given topic? I mean, is there anything that, like, were you given the manual how to be a commissioner?
No.
Yeah.
Some of us, I think, I'm not sure if Commissioner Dillon has yet, but when I was first elected, I took the Florida League of Cities training. Mm-hmm. And so that was a huge help in understanding the role of a commissioner in a government that is a city manager strong form of government. And I think that a lot of people, I know that a lot of people don't understand that as a commission and as the mayor, I am 20% of the vote, right? I don't make any decisions. I don't tell anybody what to do. My job is to run the meeting and to vote. And so for me personally, the way that I choose to vote or determine is from the community feedback. And we do get feedback, whether it's sitting at a restaurant having dinner and somebody comes over to talk to you, or you're sitting somewhere having ice cream or a drink or whatever you're doing, and the community comes up and speaks, or emails, telephone calls, has been the way that I've gone about it. And conversations with the mayor is a big help because people do come and give their opinion on how they feel about things that we're doing or we're talking about.
Yeah, just getting back to what we were saying, I think it's transparency, communication, and being approachable. And basically, listen to the people, the citizens, and that's what it's all about. And you look at the chain of command that you have. The citizens are on top of the chain of command. And we didn't have the citizens, we wouldn't be making any decisions. So, and it's interesting to know that certain topics get more participation from the residents than other certain topics. And we've all experienced that here. And we could have a packed city hall one night, and then the next, a few people will show up. But I believe a lot of people watch it at home, and we always stress about that. And there's always our email and my cell phone. I don't have a city cell phone. I just have a personal cell phone. So as long as they don't call me after 2:00 in the morning, I'm good,
As Mayor said, I relied a lot. I learned a lot from the Florida League of Cities for some training. But on a regular basis, I choose from multiple sources. I rely heavily on the city manager's input, who I know is in good communication with our department chairs, our supervisors. But I also speak to our department chairs and supervisors if I have a specific question. The city manager has made it clear that we can communicate them as long as he's in the loop. So between residents' input, city manager input, department chair and manager input, and my training from the Florida League of Cities, that's how I make my decisions. And I have to say, I feel like I have an advantage. I've lived here for so long. And I'm not going to lie, I use my own experience a lot as well. I know what really happened. Like I know what Tom and Katie Stewart Park looked like 30 years ago.
Yes, as far as decisions, I mean, I'll go back to what I said before. We get an agenda, and before the meetings, we have a chance to talk to the city manager. And if you have any questions about any of the stuff on the agenda, you go over it with them. I mean, we read it over, and then if you have any questions, you get together with the city manager, and Mike is very accommodating. And then if there's any particular questions for any of the individual heads of departments, we go right to them and get it answered right away. So when we come into the meeting, I'm kind of already prepared because I've asked any questions. The questions that I've asked have been resolved. And I would say 100% of the time they're resolved. I mean, it's not, I don't leave those meetings, that meeting with him, with unresolved questions. So when I come into the board and we discuss some of this stuff, or it's presented again by the people, it just further, instills what they're saying. So the decision is not a difficult one to decide, and as to whether or not, and as Anne Marie said, I'm 1/5 of a vote. I mean, so I can't make anything go one way or the other for the most part. I mean, and I think, at least since I've been on the board, I believe all of our decisions have been 5-0. So everybody has agreed on it, which that says a lot. I mean, I don't know, some of the issues before I was on the board were split decisions and stuff, and that's where the mayor's a 5th person to vote. So if there's a split decision, she's the tiebreaker. But it's still, once again, it's just 1/5 of a vote. So the decisions are already kind of put in place. So if you can't read the writing on the wall, there's something wrong. But our walls are very clear.
No, I think,
Can I have one check before you go on? It sometimes appears on a regular meeting that we make a snap judgment, that we're going to voting this is a second reading, blah, 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 yes. Well, by the time we get to that point, we've had meetings with our city manager, we've had meetings with department chairs, we've workshopped it. That's where the real work is done. So by the time I come to a meeting, I do have an open mind. I can be persuaded, and it has happened. But as Chuck says, for the most part, when we come to the meeting, we already know how we feel about that. There's no surprises.
I mean, it seems like a great model that's working for you all. I ask these questions again, not to find fault, but to figure out what's working and to understand, are there things that we need to be including in the strategic plan that maybe would be helpful moving forward. But maybe I'll turn it around and ask one last question about this. Are there exceptions to what you just showed me as a great model? Are there certain types of decisions that are harder for you to make or that you're uncertain about? I'll use an example. Like there's a difference between passing a consent agenda, obviously, versus passing the budget, the annual budget. Like, is the annual budget something you get? You do the same things you just mentioned, everybody's in uniform opinion and we pass it? Same with the CIP? Are those things that run as smoothly as you just described, or are there other examples?
Well, I'll have one that we talked about. I think it's the hotel down at John's Pass. And everything was presented to us very well. Everything was very clear cut. And then we had a resident come up and say stuff. So that made me pause. I mean, but then that's where we questioned her and questioned things. And so it went from a clear-cut decision to a, well, maybe, let's look at this a little bit differently. I mean, but ultimately, we worked it out. And I believe everybody went away happy. I didn't change my mind, but yet, as David said, well, you have to go into it with an open mind. And my open mind, I thought was on one way, but then suddenly something came up. So that's where I guess you have to pivot sometimes and go with what's right. So we did question things, and it became a very good issue, and it was discussed, and I believe it came out for the betterment for everybody. So my decision was not really changed. It was just diverted a little bit or made more solid.
Can you clarify the question again?
Yeah, I'm just curious if that's 100% the norm, or are there certain types of decisions where maybe the model that you all described maybe doesn't have as few road bumps in it.
Well, I guess the hardest decision that I've had to make so far, and it was somewhat subjective, most of our decisions are mostly objective because there's data to support our decisions, but personnel, I think one of the hardest decisions was hiring a city manager. That was a tough one. We were given some really good choices, and much of the decision was subjective. It was on me. So I guess with regards to personnel, sometimes that's different, subjective decisions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely personnel is one of those subjects that is definitely hard. I don't think everything is easy, a smooth road. There's some bumps in the road, that depending on the discussion or the topic, one could be difficult more than the other. One could be just like the budget. There's not going to be everything. We're just going to go yes, 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 yes. Yeah. And we're going to have our opinions, and just like I believe it was Chuck said earlier, with the cohesive team that we have, we can agree to disagree. It's something that we don't just work 2 days a month. If anyone out there thinks that the commission just comes in 2 days a month and that's it, and then we leave everything at the door, that's not how it works. And we do a study. We study and we study, and I believe all of us are doing our due diligence when that happens. Yeah. And like I say, we may not always agree. There's a few times in the past that it's come down to a 3-2 vote, on different subjects. So but we still walk away as colleagues and friends. We have a lot of respect for each other.
That's great.
Thank you. That's it.
Fair.
This is so much fun, isn't it?
I'm enjoying it.
So I would say that, to follow up on Commissioner Tagliarini, probably the biggest decision that we've made is hiring the city manager. We had a lot of candidates, got whittled down. It was a big decision to make, not just for the commission, but when we were choosing our city manager, we were also choosing the person that was going to interact with staff day in and day out and with the community. So I think that was the biggest decision we ever made as a commission, and I think we did a spectacular job in communicating and how we handled ourselves through that process. But if I was going to talk about where we would have a lot of back and forth discussion that doesn't happen prior to the dais would be the budget. And I think that this year's budget is very different than any budget we've ever done in the past. I know that for myself, I'm definitely looking at the numbers a lot differently because of the possibility of losing revenue due to homestead. So the budget and the CIP to me would be the biggest discussions that we're going to have as a commission this year. And charter officers are always, the city has 4. So we have 4 charter officers. Those are the only people who answer to us directly. So staff answers to the city manager, the finance director, the attorney, and the clerk all answer to the commission. Now, they don't answer just to me, they answer to the 5 of us. So just imagine being them and having to deal with 5 different personalities, right? The staff deals with 5 different personalities every day because we're a pretty active commission in wanting to understand the staff and what they do. And Mike has afforded us that opportunity, to have those relationships and keep him in the loop. But having 5 people that you have to figure out how they all communicate is challenging, I would believe, for them, although I think we have 4,000 personalities that we have to figure out how to navigate. So
Fair enough.
I will tell you the hardest part of the job is the budget. Trying to keep in mind that you do have a limited amount of money, and then making decisions based upon 5 personalities. So I will tell you that it's tough because you really have to think everything through so that you get a 5-0 vote. Because my job is to get everybody on the same page, get those 5 votes. Then I know that I have satisfied my job requirement. That is, I have 5 bosses, and they have 3,800 bosses. So, and then also making sure that I keep my staff also happy. So it's a juggling act, but the budget is the hardest thing to go through.
Yeah. Well, and I share in your anxiety a little bit just because we're in changing times, right? Both from a legislative perspective, but also you're in uncharted territory a little bit in terms of like you're taking big steps towards some big goals, which is exciting. But it does require you to maybe squint your eyes a bit and get more focused and more precise with those budgets. And I'll go on the record, since we've got folks listening at home, saying after seeing that briefing and studying some of the numbers, you all should be very proud of past decisions. And so the responsibility is to continue good decision-making moving forward on behalf of this community. So, all right, I probably exhausted your patience, so I kind of want to just maybe step through something that I find interesting, and we'll see how long it lasts, but I want to reserve time so we can talk a little bit about the 555 on the 666. Can we advance the slide? Do we possess the technology? All right, we'll see if this works. If not, I'll just tell a story. With your patience, I kind of just want to hear a little bit of dialogue if the following and this is 100% hypothetical. I can tell you I sat in our office yesterday trying to come up with a non-controversial, non-specific example that didn't emulate something that has already happened in recent past. So I hope I didn't land on something by accident that I'm unaware of. But just a fun activity, kind of curious. You can read it up there. I'll read it out loud for others. A developer comes to the city and they're redeveloping a site. All right, this is not a greenfield site, it's a redevelopment. So we're going to get something new in replacement for something old. And it's a mixed use development. They've got a great reputation of doing this type of development elsewhere. And it's likely to be a major attraction. And as a result, the developer's done some due diligence and realized that, according to his estimates, he needs a bit more space in order to really effectuate the plan that he has for this development. And it just so happens that adjacent to this site, the city has property, unused property. And so he petitions the city for land such that he could build parking. I don't care whether it's a parking structure or whether it's a parking lot, doesn't really matter, to support the development. So I'm curious what kind of dialogue might ensue should that petition be brought before this commission.
You picked that purely out of the.
I pulled that purely out of the air.
Well, you are sitting in a city that needs parking. Yeah. So I would have questions.
Okay.
So if you were going to gear this specifically to Madeira Beach, there have been conversations where people have said, why doesn't the city work with developers when they're developing a piece of property to add parking? So if a developer came to the city and wanted us to provide land for a parking garage, and we had the vacant land sitting there, and we needed the parking, then I would be wanting to have the conversation about how do we partner so that the city gets revenue off of the parking and the developer builds the parking garage. So I would be interested in learning more about a public-private partnership with that developer so that the benefit would benefit the developer as well as the community financially.
You're looking for a good deal.
I'm always looking for a good deal.
All right. What else would you guys ask?
Who's next?
Oh, thank you. Basically, I would agree with the, working with the developer. If it's an unused piece of land and it's as we said, it's a major attraction and activity generator for the city. And I believe, as our mayor had said, working alongside the developer to make our community even better, I would totally agree with that, 100%. So.
As we've heard so many times, Madeira Beach is built out. There isn't much we have to give.
Yeah.
So I think this discussion would have to be situational. If it happens to exist, would we even consider it? Yes, we would, and yes, we have. We'd have to see, as Mayor put so clearly, we'd have to have a collaboration. We would consider a collaboration. But again, it would have to be situational. Does there happen to be a place right there available?
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, that's what we passed for the first reading, a development down at Johns Pass, that the city is going to share 92 of their parking stalls in their parking garage.
But no revenue. The city's not getting revenue off.
Okay, but yet it will help it'll help the parking situation. So we are giving up some land in lieu of others, but yet we're getting a park, so public spaces and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I definitely would be on board with talking and going through it. I mean, if it's a win-win, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we've done that multiple times.
Yeah.
But wait. I'm the public at the meeting.
Okay.
And I have my 3 minutes of time. And one of the things I want to be sure that you guys know is there's no way in hell I want to see a parking deck built there, because it's going to be 4 stories high, and it's exactly in alignment with my view of the sunset. I don't want to see that thing. It's an eyesore. And then I'm the next person in line. I represent the Library Commission, and we need a new library, and we don't know where it's going to go just yet. Why in the world would you be giving away what few pieces of land that we have in order for something that benefits a private development? I like to read.
So then there's where your discussion on compromise, you can't please everybody all the time, but what you can do is have a dialogue to try to find or look for a common ground. So your first person who doesn't want it because it's going to block their sunset, how tall are you? 6 foot tall? You can't see anything above 6 foot, right? So I'd say that kind of tongue in cheek, but how do you find a compromise on that? I'm not quite sure. But for the library, maybe we build a library on the top floor and take the books off of the ground where they would get flooded and give you a beautiful library where you can park your car in a nice parking garage and then go up and go to the library and utilize the amenities there.
So the developer says, that's fine, but that's going to double the cost of the deck because you've increased loads, and now all of a sudden our foundation is completely different, and you've changed our drainage characteristics. Are you willing to be a participant in the construction of the actual deck itself?
Well, we want to own the library portion, so yes, we would.
Quick deal. My illustration is obviously tongue-in-cheek. I wonder... You want to make this into a game, though? Like, I could sell this game, right? We'll talk after the meeting. Somebody's going to copyright this real quick. No, I just wonder if maybe I work a lot with communities the size of Madeira Beach, as well as large, fast-growing cities too, metros, DC and Austin, whatever it is. Like everybody's got like a different set of decision tools, and the lines of discussion that ensue ultimately come back to: is it good for the community? Do we need it? Does it make sense? And I think part of my line of questioning is it helpful? Again, I'm being selfish here. You're paying us to develop a strategic plan. Is it helpful to help you inventory some questions to help you get to the answers sooner rather than later on things like that? Or does that feel like, again, I don't want to encroach. If you feel like you've got processes that are working for you, let's keep them. I don't want to change what's not broken.
I'll just say, I hear what you're saying, but we don't have anything memorialized. And I think the goal of the strategic planning, in my opinion, is for something that outlives the current mayor, me, all of us. We set something in place where we've memorialized, we've been successful, and we've just been doing it this way. Well, what is this way? Let's memorialize that. Let's build off of it. Let's, correct it and be fluid with it. But we have to have that base work to start editing and tracking.
Love it. Yes, sir.
When you said that, a checklist, if you have a list of questions that we can check off and guarantee that we'll come to the right answer, I welcome that. That would make it easy. Bring it on.
So I didn't say a decision tree. I said a checklist, right? There's a difference. So generating information and making decisions are two different things. Let's take a look at the next slide. What I'm going to show you is not the answer. But in preparations for today, I was just brainstorming with our team, and I was just trying to think about, like, how would I approach this? Because maybe it's something more controversial than what I even described. I was just trying to find an example that would get a rise out of you all, mission accomplished. But, when you've got a responsibility to be a steward of an asset, in this case, a public asset, we probably have to begin with maybe some very basic tenets. And, the first of which is the very first question, and you guys knew this, you didn't have to vocalize it, was, is the request a valid public purpose? Like, would you do this if it just benefited the developer? No, you're not in business with him. You get nothing out of it. It's not a good deal for the city. So there needs to be an expressed and well understood valid public purpose. And then, my next thing was, has the solution been vetted and identified? So if what they really brought to you was a parking problem, is that the only solution? Well, maybe they're trying to build too much, right? Parking is a function of supply and demand. You don't build more supply than what you have demand for. And if the applicant is creating his own hardship, why is it government's responsibility to fix his problem, right? He could scale back. That's another solution. And what about the the development next door that's underperforming, has he, approached them about acquisition or merger or a shared use parking agreement? Do we know those things? I use this phrase maybe too loosely, but I think it says it well. Does it pass the but-for test? But for the government getting involved, can a solution be met? Right? Because essentially, again, you're not in business with them. You have no obligation to them. And so our role should be as limited as possible if we're going to be stewards of our resources, which is a shared asset, right? And here's where this ties back to what we've been talking about all day. Does that request and that use rise above other priorities? How would we know that? Well, say we need more park space, right? We don't know if that's a good spot for a park or not if we don't have a Parks and Rec master plan. The Parks and Rec master plan may determine, hey, we not only need more park space, but we need it in this geography. Well, then the next step you would take would be, well, what properties do we have access to potentially leverage for that, right? That's a piece of information I would want to know. Can it be accomplished with or without existing resources? So maybe detach yourself from the example that I gave and imagine that there's a cost to the request. Maybe it wasn't just land. Maybe it was, hey, we need $1 million from you to make this thing happen. And, the question is essentially asking, do we have the extra $1 million, or would we have to solicit funds external to our existing funds? That's code language for take on debt. You had a little bit of conversation earlier today. I would want to know that, right? And then, are we willing to assume that debt if it's necessary? Because debt essentially oftentimes equates to an increase in fees or taxes. You have to pay for it. Like those examples that Andrew made, you borrow $20 million, you're paying 27 back, right? There's a cost to that. But then this last one I think is really important. I was really marveling. I think I'm not just bragging about some of the people that I know that have done the work, but you've got some really great plans. I was reviewing a lot of those plans. And so one of the things that most citizenry would tell you is that they expect you to follow the plans that you've previously adopted. So if you ever have questions about whether you want to adopt a plan or not, think about whether or not you want to implement it, right? If you're not willing to implement it, you probably need to change the plan before it gets to the adoption phase, because it's supposed to be the guiding policy expression of the commission. So if the request doesn't align with a previously adopted plan, right, then maybe the answer is maybe at that point. But we have to have that piece of information. Some of this probably feels pretty elementary, but I was trying to think more thoughtfully about what are the quick ways to get to it? Because what happens if we have answers to all this and we still want to do it? Can you think of a reason why that might happen? Political pressure certainly is one. Another is, it's just really cool. It's something we never imagined possible here before. It wasn't something that was contemplated during our community planning process, and yet, doggone it, it sounds like this might be a good thing for us. It's okay to admit that. There's no perfect plan out there. You will be confronted with decisions that need to be made incrementally that have no expressed alignment with past plans. Happens all the time. And so that's why when you made the comment earlier about if you can give me a checklist and give me the answer, I'll be quick to point out that these are great to generate information, but it's almost as if you want to say, I don't want to make a decision until I have this information. And then when I have the information, I'll enter into the cognitive phase of entertaining how I formulated an opinion. I may also get through all of this and feel as if, okay, well, it sounds like a valid public purpose, but I'm not sure I'm confident about it.
It's a little gray. That happens a lot too. Has a solution been vetted and identified? Well, the developer brought their own consultant in, and he says they need more parking or else the deal's not going to work. I mean, maybe that's accurate, but wouldn't it be nice to know? Wouldn't it be nice to have the confidence that your staff has reviewed that report and uses their own professional judgment, that they went to school and been trained to evaluate that through the lens, so that you can ask some questions and say, does that appear to be accurate? Is there additional information that we might want to request? So there's a lot of reasons why, like, I would want some of this basic information and then engage in the dialogue. And maybe not even want to engage in the dialogue until said information was provided. A lot of places work with things like this, and they don't get super rigid. Some do. Some actually literally build staff reports around this. Like, don't give me a staff report that doesn't answer these questions. And if there's blanks, that's fine, but let me know that you looked for it. Such that you can get to a place where your job is now contemplating the appropriateness rather than plain investigative reporter. I'll pause there for a moment, see if there's any comments. Is there any thoughts about, does this all just seem like Civics 101? Yeah, I get it, Stephen.
I mean, I feel like these questions, you're bringing the question up as a developer comes and wants something from us. I'm looking at those questions and thinking about staff coming to us and wanting something, to build something or do something or grow something. And those questions would be very much in the same line of thought as to whether or not we want to develop out something additional within the city or, yeah, so that's great, fantastic, thank you.
What you just described is essentially the tenets of governance, right? What is the backstop with which we make all of our decisions, not some? So what you just gave as an example is one. You could go one step further and say, forget the developer example. We now have a staff example. There's also that budget question, that CIP question, because we're gonna be going back trying to help vet some of this, and we'd like to think that it's not a black box, right? That we just push through a screening process, pop out a list of 1 to 10, and hope that we got it right. I think that what we want to do is be cognizant of the things that align with your previously adopted initiatives. That's respecting past policy. If you want to change a policy, that's fine. That's within your purview as well. But for right now, whatever is adopted, I'm going to believe that you guys are in agreement with. And that's helpful to us. So know that that's how we look through the lens of public policy and informed decision making. Anyways, I brought this as an example, not knowing whether or not it would resonate. I'm seeing some heads nod, like, yeah, maybe a little bit. If you're willing, what we might do is just help package something like that up. And it doesn't even need to be ours. I think it's just an example. You might want to workshop this on your own. You may want to ask your staff to workshop this and to come up with something that is tailored specifically to Madeira Beach. I'm open to any of that. But any final thoughts on this example? You got something.
Don't forget to, I think it's cool.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool. Yeah. Don't tell me you don't get comments like that every once in a while. Yeah. We're approaching a time when I wanted to really reserve some space for us to talk loosely without getting too much in the weeds about 555 on the 666. That is super catchy. It feels like, I don't know, it should be a song. I don't know, like a Stevie Nicks song or something. And I don't have an agenda for that. I think one of the things I wanted to do is just be sure we reserve space because it's a contemporary topic. It's important. And I can guarantee you, without you having directed us, it's in the 1-year plan, right? As important, urgent, I would almost offer. And so I want to pause for a moment and maybe allow any or all of you, Mayor, you might be appropriate for you to just get us kicked off and just share some thoughts about where we currently are. Maybe begin to coalesce around some, I wouldn't say programmatic expectations, but expectations of the concept of a development. I think this is, probably not the appropriate place. You're going to need more time and a little bit more structure to contemplate more details, but I'm going to stop talking now and maybe turn things over to you.
So I think I'd start off with, on the 555 property specifically, when we made the purchase of that property, the way that it happened, I think a lot of people in the public have their own idea of how that came about. And the city was initially looking for property to build a public works building on. And we were had looked at several different properties. The opportunity had been lost because everyone thought that we had to do it a certain way, and we found out that we didn't. And so there were 2 properties identified that we could possibly purchase, and the city manager was asked to go out and try to negotiate something for public works. And the one property ended up being a poor decision on the seller's part for how they decided to negotiate with the city. But we had the opportunity to purchase the 555 property. And I can say that for myself personally, I saw it as an opportunity for the city to really have something spectacular. Not unlike what the city of St. Petersburg has done with downtown, what Dunedin has done, Safety Harbor has done, lots of municipalities around us have done in purchasing property to be something for the community. And, Public Works is what took us there to start the negotiations to purchase that property. And, we're not going to build Public Works on that piece of property. However, I see that piece of property, and after so the decision was made to purchase it. There has been a comment made in the community that we wasted funds, that we purchased this with no idea what we were going to do with it. And there's a lot of truth to that we purchased it with no idea what to do with it. Because how do you purchase a piece of property that large and make the decision how you're going to build it out without ever asking your community what they would like to see there? So it was a good purchase for the community. Long term, it's going to be something that our children's children are going to really benefit from. And I'm proud that we made the purchase. I'm proud of the commission that said, yes, let's buy it and then figure out what we're going to do with it after the fact. We've held quite a number of public meetings where we've gotten a ton of input. I think that staff has a very good idea of what the community's idea is for the space. I'm so excited to move on to that next step and start seeing what we're going to see there. But if I was going to stroke a broad brush and say, I envision that property being a space where we would have boating and a restaurant and community, something for the community. So I think that at the end of the day, whatever it is that we determine we're going to do there, whether it's done through utilizing developers to bring in ideas, or we come up with the ideas on our own and do some preliminary renderings, it will be a place that when a Madeira Beach resident thinks about going somewhere, they'll think about going there.
I'm going to pass for right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he needs to get somebody else's ideas first.
Well, I'm so proud to have been on the board that made that decision. The first thing that came to mind was we can finally control the first thing people see when they come into Madeira Beach. We finally will have a say in that branding, right? And if I can only add and mirror what Mayor Brooks just said, but I see a combination of Armature Works in downtown St. Pete, a public space that brings us revenue, and it's a destination. People want to go there. right? I see a river walk, or I guess you'd call it a bay walk, so that you can walk all the way from the 555 to Archibald Beach. So those are the things that I envision, and sometimes I get too excited about the end result, and it's hard for me to get down into this nitty-gritty that we're doing. But that's what I initially thought, and that's what I think now.
I totally agree with Commissioner Tagliarini and the mayor also. I believe they've covered it pretty much. One of the things I believe that when we were making this decision, it wasn't just an impromptu decision. We put a lot of thinking and effort into this for $18 million, and I believe the group, we were visionaries for the future of Madeira Beach. We realized there was a vision there and what could be accomplished there. And I believe we were all in agreement. We didn't want another condo building to be put there. And Isle Morada, if you've ever been to Marathon, Florida, or Isle Morada down there, and the boats and the bands and there's primary spots down there that people actually go to and vacation around. And I believe as visionaries, we see this piece of land exactly the same way. So I pretty much think that they covered everything, and I just wanted to throw that in there. Sure does beat my Ferris wheel idea.
Well, it was purchased before I was a commissioner. So, and that's what I was going to ask Ray if he wanted to say anything, because I took over Ray's position and I came into it kind of as a resident, and my only thoughts are, as I know we need to have an ROI. I mean, it's a big thing, but yet we need to do something very personal. I mean, it's our city, and as they said, this is the view to our city. Typically, coming into Madeira Beach, you don't really think about anything, at least this is my idea, till you cross the bridge and you get to Gulf Boulevard. And Gulf Boulevard, you see the two big blue buildings. And that was always the welcome to Madeira Beach. So to have something as you come right across the bridge is kind of exciting for me to see. It's something that this is Madeira Beach. And so therefore, we need to be, I don't want to say cautious, but we need to think through what we're going to do there. And there's many great ideas, and in terms of, I'm not sure what all we could do as far as the development with the city and all that stuff, because legally and all that as to what we could do, but yet we have options, and we have a lot of very knowledgeable development people. One thing that I know that I was very much on board about was people were all concerned about getting in and out of there. Well, I might not remember what I had for dinner last night, but I do recall that the Kearns project was going to be, and he had it all laid out for getting in and out of the project, because he was going to build a big development there, and the streets and roadways and everything were kind of already in the works. So we can potentially go back to that drawing board and give us ideas about accessing that property. So, okay.
So the property has access. And I think a lot of people, when they think about that, they forget that the ingress and egress to that property is the marina. Not the marina, but when you pull in to the marina and you can either go straight into the marina or you can take a left and the road goes right down to the property. And that's the entrance and that's the exit of the property. So there is an in and an out. And when you're leaving the marina, you can turn right or left. So think about that road right before. That's the road, the entrance into the new property. Just for anybody who's listening. And
Mike, you have something to say?
oh, sorry.
I think they've hit on a couple of key pieces here, and and we keep hearing this return on investment, and there's different types of return on investment. And that's something that I think we really need to dig into is what are we looking at for that return on investment? We have $18 million right now and an elevated property. So with that return on investment, how are we going to get it? First, let's define ROI, and then find out how can we get to that point. And so I think that's really one of the key things that we have to decide and make that one of the main issues at least for now. And then we can make those other decisions.
So two things that came out of every meeting that we had was boat slips and a restaurant. And the boat slips with charter boats to be able to have that available, because we do not have it at our marina currently, are two ways for income for the property. And then outside of that is what else we decide to do there that the community wanted. But, and I agree, define ROI, because ROI is not just money. One of the driving factors of the property wasn't money, it was community. And our ROI is tied to our community. And that's so I agree with you on that. Define the ROI, because it isn't just the dollar.
Yeah.
This is on, there we go. So there's other ways, like you could look at like your return on investment as, all right, these slips are going to make you, let's say, $100,000 a year. But if you have slips that are like working slips, like charter boat slips, those are going to make you a lot more money in your fuel sales at the marina next door. So it's all going back to the city in another way. So you're going to get a lot more movement. You'll get some parking. You'll get things like that. They'll be buying bait, ice, fuel, all these different other amenities from you, as well as their customers when they come in. Hey, look at that. There's, little spot next door. Hey, that's a great place. All the guys know you can go up there, have a quiet beer. If you want to just go chill, they got shirts, they got other things, or if you need something, hey, before you get on the boat, they got sunscreen, they got food, they got snacks, they got beer, they got everything. So having those people come in, that's just additional revenue coming in. So I just would urge you, when you look at like your return on investment there, it's not just what you're going to make on the slips. It's going to be what you're going to add to the current marina itself as far as business goes, and expanding business and profit there.
Yeah. There's a ton of things to consider, and it's super exciting. I know, Mike, I was talking with you earlier about one of the reasons you were even interested in this new position, right, is because these opportunities don't come along very often. And so it's a great challenge, and requires diligence. And I'm hearing all of you wanting to be very careful. You're using common vocabulary around ROI. I agree. You need to spend some time finding the space to define what that really means to this community. Because, as a consultant, I can tell you, I know what a developer would suggest that is. And you may share in that quite a bit. But I was just kind of jotting down kind of the list of things that were on my mind. You guys hit it right off the bat. My very first one was define ROI. I think within that, and we're not going to litigate this today, but like, what is the long-term vision for this? Is the city the owner-operator? Is this a long-term lease to a private entity through a partnership? Those are things you all probably deserve the opportunity to explore. I also know that I was kind of listening and reading some prior notes. There's a lot of great ideas, but it is a finite piece of dirt and waterfront. And sometimes you know the difference between quality development and haphazard development. You know it when you walk into it and you experience it. And there's a life cycle cost to bad development. And so you're looking for something that is of high value, that's legacy value, that can stand the test of time. And so integrated design matters, right? Some things can coexist really well together and others not so much. And so there's going to be probably a wish list of things we hope to accommodate, but you have to go into it with the expectation that our desired outcome is something that adds lasting value. That means we're going to have to make some choices and maybe trust from the experience of the market to inspire us to understand what those things might be. And that follows in, understand the market, right? I mean, I think, Katty, you mentioned a couple times, Kirby's mentioned several times about like the monetization of the slips. I think we saw some great numbers from Andrew earlier. We know that the maritime activities here are actually a good business, but there's a lot more capacity than just the waterfront itself. And so understanding what that market opportunity is best in its competitive market makes a lot of sense. And I think the last thing my note was don't go it alone, right? There are some things that city governments do really well. There are other things that they do best at helping create the opportunity for and then benefiting from. I think you got to find where you're at on that spectrum. It could be that one of the things that you're doing is setting the expectation, performing the entitlements, partnering financially, but collecting a rent check. Who knows? Or it could be that you're owner-operator of parts of it are privately operated, and there's a lot of different combinations in between. But that seems like a really exciting opportunity. I know that, Mike, at some point you've got some ideas about additional actions that help accelerate. Those are probably best for another time. But I wanted to be sure we had an opportunity to at least get on the record some of those ideas and begin the dialogue about shared expectations. So any other final closing thoughts on that? No? Okay. Man, I said a lot. I just apologize for that. Thank you for all that input. It was great. I'm going to turn things back over to my partner in crime here, and I think we're getting close to wrapping up.
We can go back up to our presentation. So, yeah, I think we got through the bulk of what we wanted to this afternoon. Really, the next steps for us is starting to develop this 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year plan and coming back to the commission at a workshop and presenting this in draft form along with the updated guiding pillars and making sure that, what we've heard from you today, we can synthesize into these tables and make sure we're programming things appropriately. So that is our next actions for us, and we'll be working with city staff on when that timing is right and when we can approach you. I know the 1 year plan is our highest priority right now, so that can be incorporated into the next budget cycle. And then from there, we'll be developing the 5 and 10 years. So you might see this incrementally from us as well. So that's kind of our next steps on the consultant team side. And as mentioned earlier, if it's the desire of the commission that we have additional meetings, there's more engagement, there's more outreach, we can determine that as the time comes. Your plan, we want to make sure it works for you. So we're here to help. So with that, I think we do have an opportunity here if the Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, if you all have any kind of closing statements you'd like to make. I know we just shared a lot of information already, but if there is kind of anything like that you want to share, we have time for that, and then we can go into public comment.
Well, I would just say I'm so excited to see what we get. We've been talking about strategic planning for a long time, so I think it's exciting for the community and for all of us to be able to move this forward, and so I can't wait until we see what we get from you. I'm sure it's going to be quite interesting. Do you want to say something?
Since I caught it, I'll say one thing. Thanks. If you don't catch it, you can't talk. I want to. I want to commend Mayor Brooks for having really pushed this forward. This strategic planning. This is something that she really wanted to happen. We all fell in line behind her. But thanks for pushing this forward. This is a great thing for us to be doing. Okay, now you.
Absolutely. You Thank you. I just wanted to say real quick, I definitely appreciate this. We're all very excited about this, and the meeting today was very positive, and looking forward to the ones in the future also. take this time to thank our staff and our city manager. And I think we're all moving in the right direction, all of our department heads and all of our employees here are doing a great job. And I just wanted to take that time to thank you guys also. So.
I want to take this opportunity to be thankful that we can finally talk. This is unusual. I mean, because of the sunshine law that we can't talk. So here we are as a group talking openly, and as I'm finding out that you guys have mentioned it, we're a great group. I mean, very cohesive. We might disagree with some things, but we talk it out. And that's part of the thing that makes me so proud of being part of this commission. And like I say, non-sunshine stuff, we can talk. And thank you for your presentations and great job.
Well, Commissioner, we can talk, but we cannot talk about decisions and things that would, so anyhow. Just wanted to clarify, and I apologize, I had to take care of some business, so I had to go and come back. But we will start with the 10-year master plan, and then we'll phase it out to 5-year and then for 1 year. Is that correct? We're going with the master strategic plan.
It'll be in reverse. We're going to start the 1 year.
That's what I heard, but typically, you look at the big picture, and then you kind of subdivide to where you want to be.
Yeah, we'll be developing both or all three in tandem. The 1 year is, a much shorter list than the 5 or 10 year, and we kind of already have an idea of what those are with our staff meeting on Tuesday. There might be some additional ones based on what we heard today, especially regarding the 555 property. I think there might be some new things to add there. So the 1 year will be the one that's finalized first, but we will be developing everything at the same time, so that way we aren't losing anything.
So the 1 year plan will fit into your 10-year plan?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Clarify, we're not starting from zero. Part of what we spent this morning discussing was the origin of an initial list. And so you've got incredible breadth of plans that already inventory needs. So the starting point from this is your past policy expression, which gets us to an ability to look at the 1 year. Because this is the universe of need. It's already been documented. You guys have done such a good job at documenting those needs and opportunities in those previous plans. So we get to start at a little bit farther down the path, the timeline than what it might normally do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I don't know if there's any outstanding questions or comments for us, but yeah, I do want to reiterate, thank you for having us today. We can't do this with all communities. I think it's a testament to your staff, your commission, how well you all work together. And we even knew that from working on the master plan. The community is well engaged and very reasonable, and they want to be a part of the process, and a lot of great feedback. So we definitely expected this result today. You guys are great to work with, so thank you all for having us and being such gracious hosts to your facility too.
Last night we had talked about 555 at 666, right, Mayor? And we had kind of sort of talked about some sort of a name for the property, for the land that's kind of catchy and it's inviting. So, we had talked about like a harbor point or whatever, Is that what we decided?
Yeah, it could be a naming competition with the community.
Yes.
If we have time at the end, we could put up an anonymous word cloud and we can capture some ideas if you want.
So if we can put that out there, it would be really nice. And also wanted to see if you guys have a picture in mind to improve 150th Avenue. And I know it's DOT road and so forth and so on, but improving that 150th Avenue, especially where 555 is, will enhance the potential for the 555.
Absolutely. That sounds like a project that might be in the 5-year action table.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Is there any public that wants to have 3 minutes to express any desires, takeaways from today? I know we've all kind of had discussion, but okay.
I don't live in Madeira Beach, but I enjoy Madeira Beach, and I work here. I've been here going on 9 years. And I'm a grandmother of 21 children. And I like to take my children somewhere where they can just enjoy the day. The restaurants there, like the Ebo thing, coming to Clearwater. You got the arcade, you got the movies, you got the bowling, to me, that would be absolutely wonderful. And I think it would be a great ROI, investment on return that comes real fast. That's just my opinion. I'd just like to come in and be able to just let those little babies run their feet off. You know, just get tired and they have a good time. And I like to take them to the trampoline place that they have off of 66th Street. We had something like that. Boy, they'd enjoy themselves all day. That's just my opinion. I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to share that as a grandmother of 21 grandkids.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Want the red box or?
This is fine. Just wanted to thank the mayor for putting it together. This is great. Excited to see that you have a category 8 here under code policy and regulatory actions. That's going to be part of your plan. As I mentioned earlier, one of the big things for me is the road elevations and goals and our base floor elevation. I think that shouldn't even wait for the strategic plan to be developed before we start action on that. But homes are being built every day, and many of them have their base floor right at street level, and that's going to put us behind decades if that continues to happen, because we're not allowed to elevate our roads. Some things I didn't see, and I could have overlooked them, were items like the Johns Pass Pier. I know we're doing the parking garage study. Didn't really see that. I don't want it to be missed. Not to compare, but to contrast, utility undergrounding in our residential communities, I don't see that mentioned because, you know, even if it's pie in the sky with grant money, it's something that if people spent more time driving up through the Reddingtons, it's possible. Some of, go back Bath Club Road, it's beautiful. There's no overhead lines, and it has more to do with, or as much to do with resiliency. So to go to Duke, sometimes we'll say, well, technology's not here yet. It's been there for decades. So I'd like to at least have it mentioned, and not to repeat, but I have to repeat, the marina property, 10 acres. Let's develop that as one parcel before any structures, not a restaurant, not a shop, not a municipal building, is permitted and built on that space. I'd like that. 3 people on the board voted to go forward with a municipal building. And I don't know that we've really had public input into that, and that weighs heavy on my heart. So, thank you.
Were you worried you had to say something else? And I'll just add some clarification for the list of projects we handed out. That is an earlier initial draft version. When we sat down with staff on Tuesday, we added to it, removed things. So there will be more projects on there. Some that you mentioned could be incorporated in there because some of those were identified in the master plan. So just making sure we are covering all of the adopted plans and incorporating those. All right. Anything else? Any final thoughts from anyone? Sounds like we have a lot of wings left over, so maybe take some with you for the road. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. I know this was a commitment, so appreciate you setting aside the time, whether you took off of work today, are here because of work, or, you know, you didn't sleep well last night but still had to get up anyways and come here. So appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.